Interacting with a UI involves a lot of gestures, specifically on touchscreens. The motion component has support for these gestures through custom event listeners and while-attributes. Okay, so we have this pink box and we want to change the scale of it while the user hovers over it. And I can do so by adding a whileHover property here, where we can define our animation. So let's say we want to change the scale to 1.2. Well, that's all we've got to do. While we hover, the scale of the box will be 1.2 or 120%. Now let's make the box go to 90% of its size when the user taps on it. So whileTap, exactly, we're going to go scale, I said 0.9 if you listen carefully. Okay, and now whileHover 1.2 and whileTap 0.9. Pretty cool. One of my favorite things with motion animation is they cancel each other. So if I am hovering and I tap and I rapidly release, it's not going to go all the way down to 0.9. It's just going to straight go back to the next animation state. And here's a demo of that. While I hover and tap, you can see the difference of size. But if I click really rapidly, you can see that it responds very fluidly to my inputs. So whileHover will be continuously true while the user hovers over the element. That's the name of the property. Now, if you want to detect the start or the end of the hover event, you can use a custom event listener instead. In my motion.div, if I type on hover, you can see that we will have hover start and hover end properties. Let's try hover end, and here we can have a callback function, and here you can do whatever you want. So let's alert stopped hovering text string. So now I'm going to hover. While we hover, we're at 120% scale. And as soon as I stop hovering, we are going to get the alert saying stopped hovering. And all the gestures are going to follow the same pattern. So drag, pan, all these things will have a start, an end, and a while property. All right, let's get rid of this alert. It can become annoying. And by the way, for things like whileTap, as much as possible, these animations are also keyboard accessible. So if I was to tab on the square and press enter, you can see that it triggers the I'm still pressed now whileTap. And when I release, it goes away. So again, keyboard responsive. And if I tap enter really quickly, it's going to respond properly to this. And since we have the focus state here, why don't we try the whileFocus? Maybe let's change the rotation, rotate 45 degrees. All right, so hover and press, do their thing. And if I focus, you can see that now we are combining the focus and pressed, and everything is working as you could expect. There is so much more with gestures, but the last thing I want to show you is event propagation and capture. By default, events will bubble up to parent element. So if inside this div or motion.div, we had a button that says click me, doesn't look fantastic, but it'll carry the point across. If I was to hover on the button and press it or tap it, you can see that it still triggers the tap event on the parent element. Now, there might be cases where you don't want this behavior and you want to stop the propagation of the events to the parent element, and you can do that with a capture. On the button element here, I can add an on pointer, let's go pointer down capture. So whenever it captures that we have pressed, clicked, or tapped on an element, we can capture that event and then do something like e.stop propagation to prevent, let me put that on its own line, the event to bubble up to the parent element, the div. So now if I hover over the square and press it, it's going to trigger the whileTap state. But if I was to do this on the button, I am clicking, believe me, nothing is happening because it's capturing the event and avoiding the propagation to go up in the square. And that's motion gestures in a nutshell. And that's my gesture to say goodbye.